The Sound of Freedom, doing awesome at the box office, an important film. Should you see it? Find out my review right now. How are we doing, everybody? Let's talk about The Sound of Freedom. I'm not going to do any over-the-top stuff with this one because it is a very, it's a thriller, but it is a true-to-life, and it is an important topic that nobody's really talking about. And this film had to bust through a lot of doors to finally get to the box office, but everybody is paying attention to it. And that is really important. So this is the film about child slavery and trafficking from various parts of the world to other parts of the world, mostly America. So we'll talk about it, but let's talk about the film first, and then we'll talk about the repercussions of what's going on and the fact that nobody is really paying attention to what's going on and nobody really knows the facts behind it. So Sound of Freedom was directed by and written by Alejandro Monteverde. He really has very little credits. And you can kind of tell this is a very low-budget film to the tune of $14 million. Just in comparison, Insidious Red Door was $16 million. That's considered very, very low. And something like Indiana Jones was $300 million. So in comparison, like if me and my friends, that if we had any budget anywhere near that, we'd be ecstatic. But with especially the fact that it was shot around the right before COVID and stuff to that effect, it's been around for a while. I think it's been done for 5 years. So it was originally, the film was picked up by Fox and then held. And then we had the takeover of Disney, but we'll talk about that as well. But it was written by Alejandro and directed by him. And then we had Rod Barr, who also added to the writing side, but he doesn't really have anything. So this is the story of Tim Ballard. Tim Ballard worked for the government in an agency that their whole job was to deal with pedophiles. And so I'm not going to give away too many. It's not a spoiler review, but I am going to give away some plot points. So it stars Jim Cavaziel and Bill Camp. Jim Cavaziel, of course, from Passion of the Christ and Person of Interest. He did, I don't know how many years of Person of Interest, but he did about 130 or 103 episodes. So that's got to be over 5 years. And then Bill Camp's been in everything from, the Twilight series to Mission Impossible to whatever. So these are high-level guys. And then Mira Sorvino had, if she worked more than 2 days on the entire shoot, it was probably a lot. I don't know what these people probably took these roles because of the messaging behind the film rather than what they were getting paid. Because, they weren't probably getting paid a lot, especially for Mira Sorvino to come in just for the little teeny tiny role of the wife. Then you have Jose Zanunga, been in plenty of TV, was in the Rookie and things to that effect. And I forgot the guy's name is Kurt from Evil is also in this, and he's got a very small role too as the boss. I mean, he was in one location the entire film, so he was probably shot out in a day or two as well. And Kurt Fuller. So the acting is very high caliber for the adults. Okay, you have some high hitters here that maybe have not done in a whole lot. I mean, Mira Sorvino does stuff here and there, but she's not as big as she used to be. But still, this is a very small film for them to do that, especially when they had $16 million to work with. So none of these guys were making more than scale. So. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Mira Sorvino, made less than $10,000 for this. So this was all kind of a favor situation. And of course, Tim Ballard this is obviously based on a true story of some of the things that he did to rout out the pedophiles that are selling children. And so then we have the real standouts here are the children, because the children here can't be over 10 years old. So you have Crystal, I'm going to butcher this name, Aparicio, something like that. But it's Crystal and then Lucas Avilla. Okay, that one I can get. And these kids are like 10 years old, 9, 10 years old, and they knock it out of the park. I mean, their whole, and these guys have done barely anything, right? So the girl has done a few things all in Spanish, and Lucas, this is like his first thing. But the performances that the director was able to get, I don't know what he was whispering in these kids' ears to get the horror out of them. And the film doesn't get graphic or anything like that. We never really see the any kind of a torture that these kids go through, or the sexual stuff that comes with their clients. We never see any of that. So if you think you're going to go to this thing and be really grossed out by any kind of graphic stuff, you're not. There's no graphic. They totally shied away from it. But it doesn't matter, because your imagination is already taking that to the nth degree. And every person in that theater cried. Every person, including me. So if you're able to get through this film without crying, I'm going to be very surprised, no matter what sex or age you are. So it's pretty amazing. And again, they actually show scenes, not scenes, but photographs, I guess, that were taken, during surveillance, that are shown at the end of the film. So you can tell that everything was true. Now, of course, they have to embellish on certain things, or else it wouldn't be a movie. But for the most part, they've really stuck to it. In fact, the main trafficker, don't think it's all men, because it's not. The main trafficker was a woman. And the way that, she ended up getting, all the people are from Honduras and, middle, Central American to South America, those countries. They're taking basically Spanish, Latina, and Latino kids. So, and the way that they kind of entice them is that she picks out, I guess she travels around to different villages, and the pretty, or not only female but male, there's also boys there, she goes, "Oh, I think you guys make good models." And the parents are like ecstatic that that the fact that they might be able to get their kids out of poverty or whatever, and they allow them to go to this audition. And the girl says, "Come back at 7, because we don't want the parents in here, because it affects how the child acts in front of the camera." And that's actually true, because I was auditioning when I did Six Gun. I was auditioning children. And we had an angel that was supposed to be owned by a 10-year-old. And because I wanted to show the innocence that the angels come as children when people see them. And I was auditioning, and I was shocked, because I said to the parents, "Do you want to come in?" And 100% of them said no. 100%. Because they knew that it would affect the performance of the child. And I was pretty shocked by that, because this is the first time I had done that. I would never let my kid in a room with a whole bunch of men. My daughter? Nah, I don't have a daughter, and I wouldn't do it. So, of course, the person that we chose for the role, Jackie Jacobson, is a tremendous actress, and now she's a teenager. And I'm still friends with her and her family. And she just had a show on Netflix, and then she was just in my pilot that we did with Nichelle Nichols, but before her death, obviously. And so I've been on that side of things, but he actually the father actually leaves and then comes back. So even if they told me to wait outside, I'd be waiting outside the whole entire time. But no, he leaves, and obviously when he comes back, the kids are gone. So he has two. He had a boy and a girl that both were taken. So that's the beginning of the film, and that's a setup for the rest of the film. Then we meet Tim Ballard, and so on a realistic thing, so he's trying to find. Now he's told that we could only find children that are in the States. So if they're taken outside the States, so he's going after pedophiles, etc., in the States. If it's outside the States, he has no jurisdiction, and his DOJ or whatever the department that does this, he has no jurisdiction. So he ends up getting embroiled in this thing from these kids from Honduras, I believe it was Honduras. And he takes it upon himself to do that, and he has to quit his job, move forward. Quit his job, because they will not back him. So he says, all right, see you later. I'm gonna do this on my own. And his wife backs him. I don't know how they hook up with a rich guy that kind of puts money into this. I assume that they're sending money back to his family, but it's never really told how his family is getting money. So, but I assume that's what the case is. They hook up with the rich guy, and the rich guy is sending money to his family. But it's pretty amazing. And then the little girl, they can't find her, so he has to go, and I won't go into the specifics of this, of how they find her or if they find her. But, they pretty much wipe their hands of it. Even the guys in Central America, even the police officers he's working with is like, nah, man, we don't have any jurisdiction. We can't. It's over. We're done. And he doesn't take that as an answer. So he ends up hooking up with this other guy who was played by Bill Camp, I didn't even catch his name until I looked on IMDb. It's Vampiro. But this guy was a former cartel accountant, and he had buku bucks. And he realized that he was part of the problem, so he became the solution. So what he used to do is he used to just buy kids off the market and then free them. So he and Tim Ballard hook up, and they become like best friends and become partners in this thing. To where the fact that they're both sacrificing their lives if it comes to it, but definitely putting themselves in harm's way to be able to free these children that may have been in slavery for years. He was talking about one that he met with 14, and she was enslaved since she was 6. And I actually go into this too with Destiny Aurora. Has an inkling of, well, I didn't really delve too far into it, but I had that in my sci-fi as well, because I know this is a problem, but I didn't realize it was to the problem of what the numbers that they brought up. And I'm going to put a link to what Jim Cavaziel said, because when there's like a post-credit scene, but it actually has a timer, which was interesting. So he said, it says that get ready for a special message after the credits, and it tells you how much time you have left before the credits is over. And it's a couple of minutes. You wait a couple of minutes, and then he comes on, and he tells you, this was a hard film to make. We couldn't really get it done, blah, blah, blah. It's very important, and we have a pay-it-forward system because just the fact that you guys are seeing this into the theater, I'm going to put a link to that because somebody recorded it. So I'm going to put a link down to the bottom. It's a YouTube video. So we have a pay-it-forward system for anybody who can't afford to see the film. You can buy a ticket for them. So if you go to the website and put money in, it'll register as a free ticket, and somebody else can come grab it. And so that's very interesting. I've never heard that before at all. And it's I think it's angelfilms.com/freedom or something like that. So, so let's get into the whole Disney situation. So anyway, so let's go the film. Before I go the film is extremely well acted. You can tell it's a low budget film. It doesn't have that. It doesn't have those sharp edges of a polished film. Okay, so But I've heard some other people's reviews. Again, I always listen to people's reviews before I do my own, and I agree that it's not polished. Okay, and maybe it's because I've seen so many of my friends' films and stuff like that are all low budget. It didn't bother me because I've seen so many of those things. Where the sound isn't polished, the color correction isn't polished, the editing could have been a little bit of a problem because even with me, I was almost going to reach for the phone to find out what time it was. So it could have been crushed. So it didn't have the polish in the edit because I think that the writer and director didn't know where to cut. And so instead of cutting my baby up, he just left everything in there. And there was a few things like some of the Mira Sorvino stuff that could have been cut out, whatever. I saw some stuff that could have been cut to lower to kind of get into it, because the whole beginning is him going after the pedophiles and then him getting pulled into going outside the country. The stuff in the beginning could have been cut down for sure and get us into the other portion of the film. So I agree there completely that it does drag at a portion of it. But at the same token, you're getting a very high amount of detail of what this guy's job is. So it's a give or take, but yeah, just know that it's going to drag a little bit. But besides that, just the acting alone, it makes it worth it, and the messaging behind it, it makes it worth seeing. So let's get into the whole Disney thing now. So Fox had the rights to this and did not release it, mostly because of COVID and the theaters being dropped. And then literally when COVID opened up and the theaters were ready to go, they were then purchased by Disney, right? So, or that whole thing was going through where they really weren't releasing anything. I think like Morbius came out and stuff like that. But for the most part, or Morbius is Sony, but that's not right. No, yeah, it's Sony. Anyway, they bought Fox up, and they had the rights to this film, and they didn't even shelve it. They said to Tim Ballard and Alejandro, they said, "Nah, man, we're not interested in this." Now, is it because they were afraid that people might not like the subject matter being under Disney? Not really, because they could have put it under Fox Searchlight and it wouldn't affect the Disney brand at all, because they still own Fox Searchlight as a distribution channel. So that can't be the reason. Did they think it wasn't going to make any money? Well, I don't know. They just released a $300 million film that's going to lose them at least $200 million. So putting out a $16 million film that, and even at this point in time through Angel, has had very little marketing. They dumped very little marketing into this. This thing's been 100%, maybe not 100, but 80% word of mouth. So even if they dumped this thing out through Fox Searchlight and did no marketing with it, it would have cost them almost nothing. So it wasn't about money. It wasn't about the Disney brand. What was it? Because you know that Disney has no problem talking about children. But they only have no problem talking about children when it's about the LGBTQ. Trans kids. That's all we keep hearing. And Disney plugs this thing and plugs this thing. Non-binary kids. That was in their last film. So they have no problem talking about children when it comes to the LGBTQ thing. But they have a problem with it when we're talking about something that's a real situation. And when we're talking about a real situation, what are we talking about? We're talking about literally millions of kids that are taken. They actually show footage in the beginning of kids literally being dragged off the street in the Central American countries. And they said that the majority of the kids are coming here. They also said that there are more people in slavery today than there was in the 1800s. So not to talk about or belittle anybody's ancestors, on the slavery side, during that period of time of the 1800s. But let's talk about now, because obviously slaves then, we can't even walk down the street without talking about repercussions for that, for the 1800s. But let's talk about now, reparations and all this stuff for 1800s. So why aren't we dealing with the problem now? So we have the member of the DOJ that had to quit his job to push this situation, but we can't push more money. We're bringing money to the Ukraine and stuff like that, but we can't deal with the child slavery thing. And if the majority of them are coming here to the States, right? This is why I think that Disney didn't want to get involved in. Because where are the richest people that would be involved with this type of thing? Where? I'll tell you where. Right here. Right here in Hollywood. Right here in California. The other place would be New York, where the richest people in the world are. Because you can't tell me that the slave trade that's coming here has anything to do with middle class. Those people can't afford these things, right? They don't have the capability of contacting these people. No, it's going to come from very, very, very rich people. And the very, very rich people are right here and in New York. That's where it's happening. So I think that some of the rich people that Disney was involved with said, nah, we don't want to talk about this. We don't want anybody to know about this. And Disney said, okay, we'll get rid of it. Iger and Chapek probably said, yeah, I don't want to piss off some of my financial people. That's my guess why they shelved it. But they ended up finding this angel distribution network that I guess deals with Christian films and things like that. And it's the word of mouth is pushing it. So I'd be interested to know why Disney, but that's my guess. There's no financial reason behind it, and there's no branding side to it. So, in fact, they probably would have been praised for it. But even the liberal media, which is all media for the most part, any kind of main media is liberal, they are not giving it the uplifting praise it should have. They've put out, I forgot what it was, I think it was the Post, put out an article saying that it's a QAnon adjacent, meaning it's a conspiracy theory. That there's no rhyme, reason, or backup or empirical data that shows that this is happening. So instead of getting on the bandwagon and saying, yeah, this is something that we should really be talking about or being investigating further or spending more money on, they wipe their hands of it. Why? Why is the liberal media saying, no, it's a conspiracy theory? And you can look it up. Look up to the Post. It's literally called that it's a QAnon adjacent. That's what the article is that just came out. And why is that? Because somebody or a group of people that have a lot of money are trying to shut it up, and the liberal media is going along with it. That's the only thing I can think of. But it's amazing that this is happening, and nobody's talking about it. So I for one, definitely suggest people watch it. It will definitely break you. But I think it's an important topic that we kind of look into further. And all praise to Tim Ballard for making this happen, and his team, even if it's on a low budget standard. And even if we have to get through a little bit of, things that could have been tweaked. All right. So that's it for me on this. I'm going to give this film a 8 out of 10. Again, it has its problems, but the message and the acting I think that Cavaziel should win an award for this because it's probably some of the best acting I've ever seen him do. I mean, I think he'd win an award for Passion of the Christ, didn't he? I'm not sure, but I think so. But that's my 2 cents on that. All right. And before you go, make sure that you like and subscribe. I am trying to grow my channel. I am trying to get monetized, and to do that, I have to hit 4,000 hours of watch time, of which I haven't even hit 2 yet. So make sure you just watch all my stuff to the end, have it playing in the background, lower my voice to nothing, mute me. Just have it playing just so I can get the hours in. All right, I got to plug my own stuff. So Lords of LA, my Vampire Mob in the 50s comic. I am working on a new comic as well, but you can see the artwork in there. And it's about a loud singer that is turned, but she doesn't know which family turned her. So she decides to go on a vengeance thing on both of them. So it goes back and forth in time between the 1950s and the 2000s. Then my franchise here, Destiny Aurora, my sci-fi. And there's plenty of space battles, robots, aliens, and twists and turns to the story. Plus the characters will definitely hook you in. All right. And that also has a 4-book novel series. And the audiobook just came out as well, which is also on Audible. And then my fantasy novel, Tales of Ravenor, the Iron Witch, which is a 400-page novel. And it's a new series I'm putting together. And we are going to be releasing a D&D module if you guys are gamers. All right, I spoke about this film way too long. We're at 27 minutes. So let me wrap this up and say thank you again for the supporting. And remember to click the thumbs up, click the bell, and I'll see you guys on the next one.